This is the KBD67 Lite. It's my first ever pre-order / group buy purchase in a mechanical keyboard hobby. I paid the deposit for this on the 28th of November in 2020, and I received the keyboard on the 17th of March in 2021. So a little under 4 months of waiting, which is not that long in the grand scheme of keyboard hobby wait times, unfortunately. This is a 65% gasket-mounted, south-facing hot swap keyboard with an ABS plastic case and polycarbonate plate for $109 US. It's bare bones, so you will have to provide switches and keycaps. But it does come with pre-lubed screw and stabilizers and the carrying case. For a full unboxing, check out the excellent in-depth review by the Dredgen Project. The Round 1 KBD67 Lite was available in 3 colors: opaque black, opaque white, and translucent smoke. This is the one that I picked up. I chose it as sort of an in-between that I thought would look good with light-colored keycaps or dark. I do wish I'd picked up the white instead, as I ended up buying a lot of white keycap sets afterward. Oh well. I do like the look of the translucent case, although the top and bottom pieces look different due to their see-through nature. Through the bottom piece you can see the black foam, and through the top piece you can see the milky silicone gasket sheet and frosted polycarbonate plate. It's not a huge deal, and I use a wrist rest, so I don't really see the bottom piece anyway. On the bottom piece you get some KBD fans branding in this Comic Sans looking font. Thankfully, you never really have to look at the bottom of a keyboard. I had a bit of trouble building this keyboard up. I know it comes pre-built, but I had some Durock V2 stabilizers purchased well in advance, and I installed them right away. For some reason, I had a lot of trouble inserting them into the PCB. It seemed like a really tight fit. Perhaps it was because of the KBD fans stabilizer foam? I'm not sure, but I did manage to install them properly eventually. The next obstacle was the installation of switches. The board comes with this little card saying to hold down the hot swap sockets while inserting switches. Apparently this is a concern with hot swap sockets. I didn't even know. My previous board, the XM87, was a tray mount, so I guess there wasn't enough flexing going on to damage the hot swap sockets while inserting switches. So I followed this advice while inserting the Durock palm linears into the PCB plus plate assembly. It was kind of disappointing. With my previous board, I swapped switches frequently for reviews and modding. If I were to follow this advice every time I wanted to swap switches, I'd have to open up my board every single time, which takes away a lot of the convenience of hot swap. I've seen folks ignore this advice and just put in switches directly, but these are keyboard content creators with multiple keyboards. I only have 2, and the old one is already starting to conk out on me. So I settled on a compromise. Whenever I swap switches, I do it just a few at a time. I'll remove a few of the old switches, then immediately replace them with the new switches. This should minimize the flexing of the PCB, right? I was very excited for this keyboard because of 3 key features: the gasket mounting, VIA support, and screw and stabilizer support. But ultimately, none of these turned out as game-changing as I thought they'd be. First, the gasket mounting. I must confess that I have no idea what people are talking about when they talk about typing feel. Previously, I've had an integrated plate pre-built and a tray mount. I'm assuming those are stiffer typing experiences, but I don't have any frame of reference, so I can't say that for sure. Gasket-mounted boards, in theory, offer softer typing experiences, so I thought the KBD67 Lite would be my introduction into the world of typing feel. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. It doesn't feel different at all. That's not to say that it feels bad, it definitely doesn't. It's just not anything new. Second, VIA. I don't quite know why I was so excited for VIA. Don't get me wrong, it's an amazing tool, it's super convenient, but it's one of those things where you set up once and then you're done. I got my right navigation column set up, my second layer with some media controls, and I added a little macro to type the Enye because I live in Parañaque, and that was it. I actually was able to do much the same on my XM87, despite it not having any kind of key remapping support. I just used an external program called Auto Hotkey. Of course, that has a bit of a learning curve, and you do need to have a script to run at startup, but it wasn't much of a bother, although I did spend a few years working as a programmer. So your mileage may vary. But there was one part of the VIA setup process that ended up absolutely infuriating: the RGB. I'm not even that big into RGB, but I wanted to set everything up. I wanted the full experience. For some reason, the functions stated in VIA did not match up to what they did in real life. For example, brightness down was actually brightness up, and brightness up was actually saturation down. I had to work out what everything actually did through trial and error. It was not fun, but I did eventually get it set up exactly how I wanted. Here's my cheat sheet in case it's useful to anybody out there. I'm not actually sure why all of this was necessary. I haven't heard anybody else complain about this. Was it just my PCB? And third, the screw and stabs. Honestly, I hate stabs. They're the hardest part of keyboard builds to get right, but they're absolutely essential to a good sounding keyboard. During the first revision of this script, I said that the Durock V2 stabilizers didn't make much of a difference over the Durock plate mounts I had on my previous board. But then I took another listen to them side by side, and it was clear that the stabilized keys sounded much better with Durock V2s. But then every key did, even the non-stabilized ones. So perhaps it was just due to the differences between the acoustic properties of the two keyboards. And then later I started getting ticking on the spacebar with the Durock V2s. This was after I'd already written how much I liked the sound of the spacebar on this keyboard. So yeah, stabilizers, whether screw-in or plate mount, are the bane of my existence. Somebody needs to make a better solution for the long keys on mechanical keyboards. Or am I just being weird? Let me know in the comments how you feel about stabs. So I've gone from a full size to a TKL and now to a 65%. Going from TKL to 65% wasn't really that much of an adjustment for me. The function keys and other navigation keys are still accessible through a function layer, and I find that I don't really use them that often. It's still the numpad that I miss. I really need to get myself a separate numpad. So far I've been kinda critical, but here's where I start gushing. I love the way this board sounds. It's so clean and crisp and nutty, and it just slaps, man. The mounting system doesn't do much in terms of typing feel for me, but it does at least make the sound consistent across the board. The layers of silicone and foam do a good job of slightly muting the sound, which I like. Even when my computer is off and I'm playing on my Nintendo Switch and then I get a loading screen, I just go up to my keyboard, I'll press a few keys and I'll go, ooh, I love it. A lot of the local enthusiasts like to refer to this hobby as Lason, poison in Filipino. But I also like to think of it as cursed. You discover or experience something more high-end and you're just unable to go back to the lower-end experience that you were previously just fine with. I started out with membranes and I had no problem with those until I tried a clicky pre-built. And then I tried some tuned stabs and some low-end lubed enthusiast switches and I couldn't go back. And then I tried some higher-end switches and I couldn't unhear the scratch and rattle of the lower-end switches. Now I don't know if I can go back to my XM87 after experiencing the sound of this KBD67 Lite. I wonder what's next. Typing feel, I guess? I've got the Icky 68 Aurora coming later this year, and hopefully that one introduces me to the concept of typing feel. Alright, let's listen to the KBD67 Lite in a few different configurations. The most prominent comparison for the KBD67 Lite is probably the NK65 Entry Edition. On paper, the KBD67 Lite seems superior with its screw-in stabilizer support and mounting system. But like I said, these weren't really game changers for me. Perhaps the sound would be worse on the NK65EE because of the tray mount's inconsistencies. That one is cheaper though at $95 US. The EK68 Aurora seems to be superior to the KBD67 Lite with its customizable gasket mount system and multiple layout support. But it is more expensive at $129 US. This is a good-looking, great-sounding keyboard with a lot of features. Despite my criticisms, I am ultimately very happy with it. I fall more in love with each immaculate-sounding keystroke. If sound on a budget is what you're after, then this is your board. If you're after a soft typing feel, look elsewhere. As of this recording, the second round group buy for the KBD67 Lite is ongoing until the 10th of April in 2021. Round 2 features a few changes, including a Bluetooth-capable PCB. You can check out the full details on the KBD fans page linked below. Depending on when this video releases and when you're watching it, the group buy may already be over. But I wouldn't be surprised if KBD fans offers this fairly regularly from this point forward. We've now reached the end of this review. If you have any questions about the KBD67 Lite, or if there's anything I missed, please let me know in the comments below. And if you found this review helpful, informative, entertaining, or any other positive adjective, please consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks. The rest of this is going to be a vent/rant. When I uploaded my previous video, I was on pace to release a video every week or two. I was very motivated and I enjoyed what I was doing. But that previous video didn't go over so well. There was a big negative response, which really I should have anticipated. I was quite inflammatory in the video, and I was very combative and angry when responding to comments. I regret that. When I get anxious, I react with anger. It's easily the worst thing about me, and I'm trying to change it. There was a lot of positive reaction too, but it's the negative stuff that stays with you. And a lot of it wasn't even that bad, but when you're a ball of anxiety like I am, even the little things eat away at you. After that, I had to step away for a while. I seriously considered just quitting altogether. Before I started this YouTube thing, I had already thought to myself what an absolutely stupid idea this was for me. Becoming a public figure just opened me up to all of the toxicity on the internet, and there is a lot of that. And it seems to be even worse in niche communities like mechanical keyboards. Just look at the way established creators were treated when they covered the GMMK Pro. It sucks, and I wish things were different. But for now, I'm gonna keep making keyboard content because I enjoy it. Maybe someday I'll get enough hate to swear off content creation altogether. I sure hope not. Thanks for listening to this. I hope you're doing well.